Uh-oh, what is happening? Did you recognize the melody? Did you recognize what I was just showing you? If you did, then you are probably the same age as I am or somewhat older, but if you don't, then you are too young to watch this episode. I'm kidding, stay with me. We are going to see a 2-minute video clip from one of my favorite episodes of one of the most brilliant shows about women ever made, called Sex and the City. I'll tell you who the characters are briefly, and I'll tell you what the phrases that they use in this little clip stand for and how you can benefit from knowing them, and talk about the same things in real life. So let's go. Sex and the City is a show about 4 women in their mid-30s in New York. They're just living their lives, professional lives, personal lives, forging friendships, getting to know themselves better. So I do very much recommend it, even though it's a little bit retro and vintage. I mean, but it did come out after Friends did. So I mean, if you're still watching Friends, then you're probably gonna find this show relevant as well. Let me tell you what the context is. So you're going to see Carrie, the love of my life, my very favorite character on this show, Carrie Bradshaw, and her new boyfriend, who she is introducing to her 2 of her best friends, Charlotte and Miranda. Now, Charlotte is very, very romantic, whereas Miranda is quite practical. They're hanging out at a bar. What's happening is Miranda is telling the rest of the group about the date that she'd just been to the night before.
So he kissed me goodnight at the door. I invited him up. He couldn't because he had an early meeting. We kissed again, and he said he'd call.
2 kisses? Very promising.
You think, even though he didn't come up?
Definitely. It means he likes you, but he wants to take it slow. That's nice.
Burger, what do you think?
You really want to know?
Please, I would love to have a man's opinion for a change.
All right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. He's just not that into you.
That's not true. Don't listen to him.
Oh, no, I'm intrigued. Elaborate.
Look, I'm sorry, but when a guy's really into you, he's coming upstairs, meeting or no meeting.
Oh, that is ludicrous. What about extenuating circumstances? What about you're stressed out, you're on deadline, you have a migraine? Or a lot of guys are afraid of getting their feelings hurt and they don't want to ruin a friendship.
Or they're freaked out by their own feelings. There's a lot of push-pull out there, a lot of mixed messages.
Yeah, I'd have to say that's all code for he's just not that into you. I'm sorry, but with guys, it's very simple. If we're into you, we're coming upstairs. We're booking the next date. There are no mixed messages.
No mixed messages, but
I've spent my whole life deciphering mixed messages.
I've made a whole career of it.
Wow, he's just not that into me. He's just not that into me.
Oh, honey, ignore this person. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You were fired.
Miranda is reporting on how the date went, right? And she reports it in the past simple. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So what exactly happened?
So he kissed me goodnight at the door.
He kissed me goodnight. What does that mean? When you kiss someone goodnight, you kiss them before they go to bed, right? You kiss them at the end of the night. You kiss your children goodnight. It's a very common expression indeed.
I invited him up. He couldn't because he had an early meeting. We kissed again.
I invited him up. So this is how phrasal verbs work, right? So you take a normal verb, You see how there's a physical direction and you mix them up and create a phrasal verb. So when you invite someone up, you invite them to come upstairs. Invite him up. Invite him to my apartment. That's the point. That's what she meant by it. Now, did he come upstairs? No, he did not. Why? Because he had an early meeting, she says.
2 kisses? Very promising.
Carrie says it is very promising. The fact that they had kissed twice. Now, when you say that something is promising, the part of the word promise speaks for itself. So this means there's this promise of success. There's this promise of a second date, for instance, right? So this is very promising. What else can be promising outside of this context? Say you start a new project, business project, academic project, and it looks good. It's likely to be successful. It's very promising. A very promising student or a promising start. Say you're walking down the street and you see a restaurant and it doesn't look so good. It doesn't look promising. But in truth, it might actually be a very good restaurant, but it doesn't promise success by the looks of it.
He said he'd call.
2 kisses? Very promising.
You think, even though he didn't come up?
And this is where Miranda goes, you think? And this is a very, very important bit. Not just because of the vocabulary, I mean, it's quite straightforward, you think, but the tone and the pragmatic meaning behind it. Look at her face, right? So she goes, you think? Look, listen to the tone of her voice. It goes upwards. She's really unsure of it. Basically means, really? I don't think so. Like, are you sure? You think? You think? That's promising? I don't know. Even though he didn't come up?
Even though he didn't come up?
Definitely. It means he likes you, but he wants to take it slow. That's nice.
Charlotte. As we've established, Charlotte is a truly romantic person. She believes that he, the guy, wants to take it slow. Take it slow. My goodness, what an important expression. First of all, the form. See how it doesn't say take it slowly? So instead of using the adverb, which is the grammatically correct choice, you're gonna say slow. So you go very carefully. You progress, you navigate at a slow pace. And it often has to do with relationships. So if a girl or a guy wants to take things slow, they don't want to rush themselves into anything. They want to just hang out and see where it's gonna take them. With business, for instance, we want to take these negotiations slow, right? We want to take it slow. We don't want to rush ourselves. So the contexts are going to vary, but oftentimes it's got to do with relationships. Sometimes it's a great idea to take it slow.
Burger, what do you think?
Really want to know?
I love this part. So this is where Burger goes, you really want to know? Like, listen to the tone. The tone is everything in this one. Na-na-na-na-na. He's saying, you probably don't really want to hear what I'm about to say. So pragmatically, he's warning her that the information he's about to provide is not fun to hear, which is why he goes, you really want to know?
Please, I would love to have a man's opinion for a change.
I would love to have a man's opinion for a change. I want to focus on the last bit, for a change. So what does that mean exactly? That means that normally she hears opinions of her girlfriends and she'd like to hear something different for a change. Say, every night we stay at home and we cook for ourselves. Let's go out for a change. You welcome that change and you kind of signal to the person you're talking to that you'd like them to also consider a new way of doing things. It's often quite sarcastic, the context that you're going to use it in. Like, for instance, oh, well, it's nice of you to turn up on time for a change, as in normally you'd be late. That's something that a lot of people want to say to me, I imagine.
For a change.
All right, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you.
This is where he goes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Sugarcoat. This one is metaphorical and so beautiful in how metaphorical it is. Sugar. What sugar? I got no sugar in my coffee. I've got a sweet tooth. I love desserts, but not like sugar. I want the sugar in the cake or in the pie, but not the actual texture of sugar in my mouth. Anywho, there's sugar, and then there's coat. So a coat, well, it's something you wear. Now, when you sugarcoat it, you pour metaphorical sugar over it, right? So what you do is you introduce information that's not fun to hear, but in a way, in a manner that's going to make it sound sweeter. The good friend that he is, he goes, not gonna sugarcoat it for you. So I'm just gonna tell you the truth, tell you like it is.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. He's just not that into you.
Ta-da! He's just not that into you. So if you're into someone or something, you are interested in it. Interested, to be into it. Not interested. You don't want to spend more time with them. You don't find them to be so attractive. You are just not that into them. And this is the critical bit. He doesn't say he's not into you, because that is just rude and mean. I mean, why would you just say that? No. He's not that into you. So the not that part softens it. It makes it sound a lot nicer. I mean, the meaning is still there and it's still quite hurtful, and he kept his promise. He did not sugarcoat it for her. He's just not that into you, as in he's not very much into you. Not super into you. But all of those, forget them and keep the formula. Not that into you. I'm not that into sports. I'm not that into Russian literature. I'm not that into Dostoevsky. So you're like, perhaps trying to say, I hate his guts. I hate Dostoevsky. You want to make it sound a lot softer. So you go, not that into it. Not that great. That movie is not that awesome.
That's not true. Don't listen to him.
Oh, no, I'm intrigued. Elaborate.
I love Miranda. She goes, I'm intrigued. Oh my God, you guys learn this word. It basically stands for I'm very interested in what you just said. I want to hear more. I'm intrigued. So the words he just said, what he just suggested, intrigued her. What he said is intriguing, and she is intrigued. And she goes on to say, elaborate. Now, I love that word. I absolutely love that word because it is so practical. Whenever you're talking to someone and they've just introduced an idea and you want to hear more, you will say, elaborate. Do tell. Tell me more. What else? Keep talking. I want to hear more of this. Elaborate. As in, make it longer. Make it more complex. Introduce more. Give me more information. Elaborate.
Oh, that is ludicrous. What about extenuating circumstances? What about you're stressed out, you're on deadline, you have a migraine?
So Carrie's not happy with what she's just heard, so she goes on to say, that is just ludicrous. It basically means this is absurd. This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. This is not true. Ludicrous. Combine all of those words together, you're gonna get ludicrous.
What about extenuating circumstances?
Now, what is a circumstance? Well, like some sort of fact, some sort of condition that affects the situation. And this word is normally used in plural, the plural form. So it's not just one circumstance, but circumstances. If they are extenuating, then they make the result of a situation less upsetting. If someone makes a mistake or commits a crime or just upsets someone or does something that is not the best thing to do, the mistake is not so bad. it's excusable because of those circumstances. We call them extenuating circumstances. Here, the extenuating circumstances could have been anything, and she goes on to tell us what they might have been.
What about you're stressed out, you're on deadline, you have a migraine?
Charlotte again, she wants to make it seem better.
Or a lot of guys are afraid of getting their feelings hurt and they don't want to ruin a friendship.
They don't want to ruin a friendship. You kind of destroy it. You make it a lot worse than it originally was. So if you are in a relationship with someone and there's always potential for breaking up with someone, to have a friendship after that, that's kind of a problem. It'll be destroyed. There'll be no space for it, no chance for it. And what else can you ruin? The bad weather ruined the party. I ruined my sweater because I don't know how to use that washing machine. Has happened to me on numerous occasions. Years of computer use have ruined my eyesight. They damaged it, right? You don't want to ruin a friendship. Kid is upset with someone, they might say to their parents, "You've ruined it! You've ruined my birthday party! You ruined everything!" Yeah, you might want to say that to someone.
And they don't want to ruin a friendship. Or they're freaked out by their own feelings.
Freaked out by their own feelings? Freak out is like the most important phrasal verb in all of American English ever. It is so common, you're gonna love it. Okay, so you got three possibilities. Freak someone out, to freak out, to feel freaked out. Freak, what do you associate with the word freak? Crazy. When you freak out, you feel a whole mixture of feelings all at the same time, and they kind of overwhelm you. You kind of go mad for a second. So you feel surprised, upset, angry, confused all at once. You got no idea what's happening to you, so you are freaking out. You're like, wow, what is happening? This is what Miranda feels happens to a lot of guys. They get freaked out by their own feelings. So they don't know what to do with them. They're like, goodness, she's so into me. I'm not that into her. For instance, I gotta run. I don't want to become part of this. I cannot commit. I gotta escape. It might be about anything. So for instance, if you are delivering a speech and you're about to go on stage and you freak out because you got no idea how it's gonna go, and it's a lot of emotions all at once. You feel freaked out. Speeches freak you out. You're freaking out. And the same goes here. Relationships freak some guys out. They feel freaked out. They freak out because they don't know what to do next, for instance. So, yeah.
There's a lot of push-pull out there, a lot of mixed messages.
I love this. Another beautiful word combination. There's a lot of push-pull out there. Push-pull. There's a lot of push-pull out there. This one's got to do with relationships and relationships alone. And it's a beautiful metaphor, and it's so physical and so sensual and straightforward. Push-pull. Hear the sound? Push-pull. So what happens in relationships is someone might feel like they're freaking out and they're not ready for a relationship. What they do is they kind of push you away, but they also want you to stay interested. They pull you kind of, and then they push you away. So have you ever been in a push-pull sort of dynamic? You know, we're together, but no, stay away, but stay together, but no, go away, stay into me, go away. Exhausting, honestly.
There's a lot of push-pull out there, a lot of mixed messages.
A lot of mixed messages. Well, this one is straightforward. Messages, they don't have to be like text on your phone. They could be just things that you want people to understand, that you want to communicate to them. And if they're mixed, push, pull, you don't really know what's happening. Lots of mixed messages. Does it have to be about relationships? You know, romantic relationships. Any sort of relationships, professional, parental. For instance, with the British government, there's been so many mixed messages. Go out, don't go out. Go to work, don't go to work. Stay home, don't stay home. Which one is it? How do I decode this?
Yeah, I'd have to say that's all code for he's just not that into you. I'm sorry, but with guys, it's very simple.
I have to say, when you say those words at the beginning of a sentence, you also kind of try and warn the person that what they're about to hear, they're not gonna like it. I have to say, da-da-da-da. That's all code for he's not that into you. When someone says that's code for, that basically means ta-da-ta-da-ta-da. That means he's not that into you, but code, he uses that word, and that is a very interesting metaphor to kind of stress that it's not super direct, it's not too obvious, it's not clear, which is why it's code. Code is not supposed to be clear, but that's the message behind it.
But with guys, it's very simple. If we're into you, we're coming upstairs. We're booking the next date. There are no mixed messages.
No mixed messages, but
I've spent my whole life deciphering mixed messages.
Back to the metaphor of code, you have to decode the message, decipher the message, interpret what someone else says to us, because it's not straightforward, it's not direct. There's so many layers, and you kind of try and get rid of each and every one of them to get to the core, to get to the heart of the matter. And this is where you have to decipher, decode what someone tells you.
There are no mixed messages.
no mixed messages, but
I've spent my whole life deciphering mixed messages.
And she spent her whole life deciphering mixed messages. I spent my whole life doubting myself. Probably shouldn't post this, but whatever, I already said it. Share in the comments, what did you spend your whole life doing?
no mixed messages, but
I've spent my whole life deciphering mixed messages.
I've made a whole career of it.
This is super funny actually, because especially for those of you who are fans of the show, because as you guys know, Carrie is a writer and she writes a column. So she writes a weekly or monthly column for a newspaper, a New York newspaper, and it's about relationships. And the articles that she writes, they're all about mixed messages and deciphering them and trying to understand what's code for what. And there he is, Berger, her new boyfriend, telling them all that there are no mixed messages. But it's funny how she says, I made a whole career of it, but the truth is you can also use the expression to make a whole career or make a career out of doing something in a metaphorical sense. And if you'd like to see an episode on metaphors, do watch the episode on phrasal verbs. I talk a lot about metaphors and how they work and what they're based on. We may use the expression to make a career out of something metaphorically. Someone is doing something all the time, and it's wrong, and it's bad, and it annoys people. You may say that they're making a career out of doing it. For instance, they're making a career out of upsetting people, and they really should stop. And this one is a sarcastic comment, whereas here she means it quite literally.
I've made a whole career of it.
Wow, he's just not that into me. He's just not that into me.
Oh, honey, ignore this person. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You were fired.
Yeah. And then when they get busy, it's like, oh, I can't call. Like, oh, I'm so stressed, I can't call you. Yeah, but he's gonna call. And his kitchen's being rewired.
It's also complicated.
Yeah, that's like a 2-day process.
At least.
Everything.
I know.
Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, and I hope what I'm gonna say will save you a lot of time and energy. He's just not that into you. So move on. Have a great day.
Having passed on the gospel to these New York women, Miranda could only hope they would spread the word far and wide.
Bitch, who the hell asked her?
Not me.
I know you
Crazy
didn't.
people in New York.
He is so gonna call you.
I know.
So you guys, please subscribe, leave comments, use the expressions that you've seen me use and explain in the comments section, and you know, follow me on Instagram. You see the information right here, and I will come back here on Tuesday, and I hope to see you back here as well.